The following episode of Crusade for Myth Drannor was adapted from The Castle of Corellon, written by Sean McGovern. They regroup in the hub room, ready to tackle the double doors to the north. Confirming nothing sounds amiss, the four bust down the door and are surprised to see a room lined with cells. On the wall outside of each cell is a small crystal. Near the door, a prayer to Corellon is inscribed. Walls of prismatic energy trap three unlikely individuals in each of the chambers, and a larger area is cordoned off by a single field. In the smaller rooms are a half-orc, a half-elf, and a kirkpa, a small sentient squirrel-like creature. The half-orc looks up from a book at the four who had entered, but he returns to the pages of it without offering much of a greeting. The half-elf gushes, introducing herself as Lunette Lincian, the half-orc as Naut the Grammarian, and the Kirkpa interrupts to introduce herself as Quintic. Puzzled at their presence here, Massul, Túrendil, Jynx, and Rilyanasse barrage the quartet with questions. Who are you? How did you get here? What happened? Do you know anything about the gliding ruin? What about what's behind that door? Lunette struggles to keep up with the bevy of questions. Jynx earns a collective scolding from the group for voicing surprise that the half-orc could read. Amidst the excitement, Rill remembers the key, produces it, and speaks the elven rune aloud. Revanthus. The beam of light unlocks each cell in turn, and the three prisoners are given what aid is available to share. Ellen Peelin eyes the Kirkpa, hooting questioningly at her master and conveying a definite feeling of hunger to the ranger. Realizing they've been traveling and fighting for a good long time now, the group breaks bread together and goes over the questions they had for the three, who call themselves the Seekers of the Misty Isle. The Seekers state their research led them to these ruins, as its magic may be somehow connected to the Lost Isle, but they were captured by goblins, who they fear are preparing to sacrifice them to their deity, the Blood Moon Witch. Lunette further explains that whatever the four of them have done is healing the place of its corruption, as there was previously a waterfall of blood blocking the doors to the north, and she'd been badly injured just by touching it, though the Blood Moon goblins were able to pass freely. Whatever it was, it disappeared not long before the four adventurers arrived. Lunette adds there must still be some goblins within the chamber to the north, and Quintic shepherds the two demi-humans out of the room and away from the obvious upcoming fight. Making what final preparations they can, a Shield of Faith spell and the last of their healing, the four kick down the doors to the room beyond the cells. Beyond the doors is an ancient, well-kept shrine to Corellon Larethian. A freestanding sculpture of water along the back wall illuminates the chamber, the liquid swirling with a blood-red taint. Thick curtains are drawn across the room to the east and west, obscuring portions of it. Half a dozen goblins all snap their attention towards the doors where the party has emerged. A tall, emaciated humanoid figure in a hooded robe stands amidst them, a veil of mist obscuring their face, and above them the huge black eye stares balefully from the ceiling. Rilyanasse acts first, unleashing an arrow and wounding one of the many goblins while commanding her owl to stay back for the time being. Túrendil steps into the room, slicing at one of his foes, while Massul hurls an acid flask at the hooded figure, splashing the nearby goblinoids with the burning liquid. Jynx, likewise, throws a dagger, seeing it go wide. Another arrow flies from Rilyanasse, before several of the goblins step up to Túrendil, gibbering at him in their native tongue and scraping their claws uselessly against his armor. The elf returns their incomprehensible shattering with an elvish taunt, weathering more blows and psychic attacks. The hooded figure casts a protective spell, and Jynx works in behind the elf to needle one of the nearby goblins with a dagger, hugging the door frame for cover. Túrendil makes ready to slay another goblin when a spectral red claw the size of a man emerges from the ceiling, grasping him tightly. He struggles futilely against it. Another claw grabs at Massul ineffectively, and the dwarf cries, "Blood Fury!" letting his hammer loose, felling the mysterious humanoid who now lays unconscious, moaning gibberish. A well-placed shot from the ranger downs one of the wounded goblins, while the remainder pile into melee with the berserker and warpriest. A lucky strike wounds Túrendil, while Massul takes a couple of hits as well as some damage from one wounding him with its shared visions of the plane of Acheron. The warpriest struggles more against the claw holding him, unable to break free. The black eye stares balefully at the carnage below, and another hand emerges to attempt to grab Massul. It fails, and the dwarf brings down his hammer to cleave 2 goblins near his elven compatriot. Ending the life of 1 Blood Moon goblin as the second dances away, the dwarf steps forward into the fray. Rilyanase's next shot finds the frame of the door instead of its intended target, while the remaining goblins surround Túrendil and Massul, assaulting them with bloodied claws. The hooded figure mumbles something incomprehensible, dying on the floor. Jynx whips a dagger lightning fast at it, putting the spellcaster out of their misery. Choosing to ignore the threat of the claw, Túrendil instead turns his attention to an enemy adjacent to him and strikes it down with his sword. Massul prepares to do the same, but this time he is captured by the spectral grasping claw, forcing him to drop his hammer and resort to his sword. Another goblin falls. The combat wraps up quickly, with the last goblins falling swiftly and Massul struggling free of the spectral grip, shattering it into nothingness. Finally freeing himself from the spectral hand's clutches, the badly wounded Túrendil drives Nephilium into the last of the cursed black eyes, severing whatever power was bringing the clawed hands to hinder them. Massul hangs on with a single hit point left, and Jynx is hurt as well. Rilynasse's quiver is running low on arrows, everyone is out of spells. The room falls silent, the swirling red in the water sculpture at the back of the room turns to a calm, cool blue. The curtains dividing the room are drawn aside, revealing a dirty makeshift bedding area to the left and a writing desk with a long scroll to the east. The scroll details some information about a cursed, magic-starved man named Nephistaxis, his mentor, and his subsequent escape to this castle. His meandering writings admiring the elven craftsmanship of the castle, the friendship of the goblins, and the awe of Corellon leave Túrendil wondering if they'd done the right thing killing the weak old man. With the suggestion gaining little traction, the elf checks the rest of the desk, finding a handful of coins, a magic stone, and a magic ring with an azure jewel. Unable to discern the ring's purpose, he activates the stone, striking up a conversation with a familiar-sounding female goblin. A sending stone. Precious in pairs, but they would have to determine how to get the other away from the goblinoid they'd spared. Remembering their purpose here, the 4 rush to the entrance of the ruin to see if it's still en route to Barrowmist, distraught to discover it is, and they have yet to find a control room to stop the inevitable destruction the ruin will cause. Together with the Seekers, they begin searching the place room by room before the emblem speaks into their minds, perhaps motivated by their frantic efforts to avert disaster. She relays a similar tale of a previous owner of hers who had needed a means to uncover a secret, and though she looked and looked, she could not find it until at last she realized she had such means all along. Hesitant of the talking emblem's advice, but with little else in the way of alternatives, Túrendil slips on the azure ring, and after a moment realizes that he can concentrate and see through the eyes of the sculpture of Corellon outside. Not only that, he can feel each door in the place, able to will them open or close with but a thought. Another moment's concentration, and Túrendil feels he can direct the ruin's path, seeing it to its destination with little harm to the town they had come here to save. The couple of hours of the return trip are uneventful. The party sends word ahead to the village to clear out the foundation of the castle, and while the gliding ruin leaves some damage to the forest in its wake, the town of Barrowmist is largely unharmed as the ruin settles into its rightful place. With everyone safe and the immediate danger past, the 4 begin discussing what to do about the ruin and the relics found within, as well as the prisoners they'd freed. The Seekers plead to be allowed to investigate the ruin more, as it surely holds the secrets they were after. After some deliberation, the party decides that the best course of action to enable them to do so without threatening either the town or the eager scholars with immediate harm was to leave the ring with Namarel. The priestess of Corellon graciously accepts the responsibility and vows to oversee the safety of the researchers as well as the sanctity of the ruins. The other sending stone is left with the Seekers as well, that they may contact the 4 who'd rescued them should they ever uncover anything of interest. With the crisis averted and there still being some daylight to be had, the people of Barrowmist spend the rest of the Arrow Sunder Festival celebrating these new heroes. A gift of magical arrows, healing potions, and what little coin can be spared is put together as a gift. Asked to name themselves, much like other fabulous adventuring companies, the 4 decline, preferring to ruminate on what name might suit them. The rest of the night was spent reveling and taking care of what errands they had come to perform, before returning to Aschaffenburg. This concludes the Castle of Corellon, but it is far from the end of our adventures. We hope you have enjoyed and will continue to follow our story. If you have enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you for the next adventure.